So in the last video, I was having a little bit of problems. We were trying to merge our code into the main branch and it ended up failing the unit test. I was thinking about it and I think I found out, or I think I remember, oh wait, hold on a second. I know of at least one error. I don't know if it's actually going to solve it, but look at this. Okay, when we were playing around, we uncommented this part right here. So I'm going to try to do that, take it away. Now we actually do the migration again, okay? Perform the git, add, commit, added back migrations line, okay? And push origin feature semantic search, okay? So hopefully this will work. Let's see. That should trigger our actions again. So let's see what occurs. And then I'm thinking about, okay, well, where do we go for today? If we are able to solve this, I want to, I guess, revisit migrations and just get an overview and understanding of what they are, how they're working. Okay, so that is my unit test again. So if failed unit test again, so that is unfortunate. Okay, so we will copy and paste this into Gemini and start debugging. Okay. So this is for troubleshooting. Okay. The unit tests are in the cloud. The unit test failed in the cloud. It's likely is still visible on. Wait, hold on. What? Okay, model configuration error. You added new properties for semantic search like vector embedding to your models, but DB context doesn't know how to map them to the database yet. Okay, missing migrations. Hold on. So, okay, I'm not. Why would I go to my main branch and see? Hold on. I have been developing on this new branch for a little while now, and I just committed to the remote repo, and now I'm getting this error. I actually did a whole bunch of different things, and one of the things which I did was I created a connection to AWS, but I thought that I reversed that, and I'm still now using my local Postgres. And as you mentioned, another thing that I did was getting the Pgvector type of database, but I changed this Postgres image to be one which should be able to support the Pgvector type. Okay, let's see. So, moving towards Pgvector, entity framework is likely trying to map a new data type like vector array, but it doesn't know how to handle it. Or the tests, okay. The ghost AWS check. Check app settings.json and app settings here. Ensure your connection string is pointed to localhost. Okay. So app settings here. I have AWS connection string and default connection. Okay. And then in my program CS, I use default connection as the connection string, then build it, okay? Data source here. And then I do the migration here, okay? That seems correct. Sometimes looks for similar. If these exist, some logic in. Yeah, I think I wanted to prove that I was able to get connectivity to AWS, but I thought that I reversed that. This is the most likely culprit for get model error. Entity framework doesn't support vectors natively out of the box. Did you add this? Yes, I did. Okay. I don't know what this will do. No project was found. So I need to go into my bid engine, right? And do that command. Okay, so we did it, but I don't know what we just did. So now I guess come back here. And I was hoping to be able to start understanding the concepts better, but right now it's doing this. What did I just do, and why might this have been causing a problem? So, by running this command, you told Entity Framework to compare your C# code, the models, to your current database and generate a script to bridge the gap. So did we get a new script? Apparently we did. Okay, so we got 2 new scripts. Okay, I think it's time for me to actually go and try to learn more about migrations. So now if I do docker compose up, am I going to get... So I got 2 of them, right? One is just empty. The other one has a whole bunch of stuff. Add Pgvector support. Designer.cs. Okay. This one also has .designer. So this one looks like nothing happened. Looked blank. So I think there was nothing that happened in the migration. You just performed a vital step in the entity framework workflow. By running the command, you told EF to compare your C# code, the models, okay, yeah, to your current database. So follow-up question number 1 is, how does entity framework know what my code looks like? Does it go in, compile the code, check every single line, and determine what might be used in which context? Okay, there we go. Let's follow up question number 1. Let's see what our number 2 is. The code versus reality mismatch. When you added the Pgvector to your campaign or bid models like vector property, your code changed, but the database and the text base didn't know about these new columns. Okay, so let me reread that, because if there's a problem that keeps coming up and keeps like punching me in the face, I want to spend a little bit of time to try to understand the concepts behind it, because then that means that I'm not going to just be randomly doing things. And when you randomly do things, eventually you get the correct combination and it unlocks, but then next time you have to go through every single combination again because you didn't understand it. So I'm trying to identify, okay, well, what's actually the concepts behind this? So when you added Pgvector features to campaign or bid models, okay, so first off, AI doesn't have much context. I guess it was on a different chat. I should have done it here maybe. Anyways, it didn't know about those columns yet. Okay, yes, that's true. Before the command, your code was asking the database. Okay, so before, your code was asking the database for vector embeddings. My code was asking for vector embeddings, and the database was responding with, I have no idea what those are. I have ID, name, and budget. Okay, the other database. Did we change anything? Hold up. Did we change anything in our Docker Compose? Where are you? Here it is. So this is bid engine, and I changed these. Okay. This is what it used to be. Okay. And this is what it's changed to. It's a different format. I don't know if that's a problem. And then did I change anything up in Postgres? I think I did. Infrastructure, entry point, possibly here. Okay. The other thing that I'm curious, let me just Docker compose up, and let's see if we're able to let's see if we're able to get those ads. Okay. So this is what it is supposed to look like. Let's refresh it and see if we in fact do get our ads. Okay, failed to open. So we are Let me just refresh it again. Make sure that it is same thing. Okay. So oh, I think it was a, I don't know, it's running a whole bunch of stuff and my computer is very not powerful. So that, in case my computer crashes again, but I mean, yeah, it's working. It's working. So it's able to get it on my local. Okay. All right, so let's go and keep learning about the concepts. Okay. So the error. Microsoft Entity Framework Core Infrastructure model source get model error. Okay, get model. You saw earlier usually happens when EF tries to map a complex type like a vector that hasn't been properly defined in a migration. But we did define it in a migration. If you look in your folders, you should now see a new file inside of migration, something like timestamp support.cs. I actually see two new files inside of my migrations folder. The first one, okay, let's give it the context of this one. And then the other one is the timestamp name. Timestamp name like this dot support.cs like this, or support designer. Okay. Name support designer.cs. Okay. And like that. Yeah. Okay, what the command actually did. If you look in your project folders, you'll see these. The file contains two main parts, up and down. So up does the migration, down does the opposite, like demigration, right? The instructions revert the changes, yeah. Okay. Why this specifically affects your tests. Oh, right, maybe I do need to look into my... Okay. I always forget that the unit tests are actually a different part of my project. In your GitHub CI, the error log you showed, the runner starts with a fresh database. If your code includes vector properties, but your migrations weren't updated or applied, the DB context fails to initialize. However, if they're only halfway there, you've created the migration, but you haven't applied it to your database yet. Okay. So we update here to apply it to my local. This is the most important part for clearing the red errors on GitHub because you are using Pgvector. Your database needs the extension enabled. Check your new migration file. Do you see the line that says annotate? If not, you need to manually add it to the up. Migration builder, alter database, annotate. vector here, okay. Add vector support to this one. This is the original one, which we did. Okay. Enable Pgvector and video. Okay. So how does Entity Framework know? I think I need to stop this because it's taking up a lot of resources. Okay. All right. So while that is doing its thing, everything is frozen. Okay, so Entity Framework doesn't scan every line like a human would. Instead, it uses reflection and model snapshots. Okay, so we've seen snapshots, right? AppDB context, model snapshots. The target, your code, when you run .NET EF migration add, Entity Framework builds your project and looks at the DB context. It starts at your DB sets, and so that is like the tables. Okay, like add, and follows the trail of your classes. It uses C# reflection to look at the properties and types and relationship of those classes. So the snapshot. Entity Framework looks at a file in your migration folder called this snapshot. This file is a frozen version of what your code looked like the last time you made a migration, okay? The comparison, it goes in, looks for or performs a diff between the snapshot, what my code looked like previously, and what it observed through reflection, okay? If my code has a property embedding that isn't in the snapshot, Entity Framework says I need to add a column. If a property is gone, it says I need to drop a column. So, and what I'm thinking is, the reason that my up and down are empty is because we didn't change anything about our database. Like, from the last time we did a migration. So it says that this is a red flag. You'll notice add Pgvector support CS up and down methods have no code inside of them. Why is it empty? Even though the designer CS file shows vector mapping, doesn't know how to translate a vector type into SQL command by default. Okay. So I do have this in my AppDB context. Data, yeah. Okay. So on model creating, do we take this away? Hold on. Has Postgres extension. Hold on. I thought we has okay. No, Pgvector extension is optional for now. We persist embeddings as JSON-B and will enable Pgvector and call when the Postgres instant. Okay, so this actually is out of date. But I have embeddings here and has column type that. And see here. Okay. But did I thought I really hate that sound. Is it this? No notifications. Well, because I noticed that the sound only occurs on Visual Studio Code. Maybe I need to like shut it down or something and bring it back up. I don't know. Okay. So I have my migrations, is development. I have this. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is ask about this one. Okay. This is in my program.cs. And then I'm gonna say here is my app.db context. One other thing is I am currently able to run my project and my front end is able to successfully retrieve the advertisements from the back end. Okay, so I didn't get it. One more thing is that I am able to run my project and get the ad successfully from my backend on my local device. Also, can I do like .NET test or something? Layer migration. Oh, I should have also said that we had other migrations as well. So when you run .NET migration add, the entity framework tool doesn't look at program.cs, it looks at app.db context because DB context doesn't have the extension enabled. Entity framework says I see a vector property, but I don't know what a vector is. Okay, but then why would it work on my? If entity framework is confused about the line in my ads table which asks for a vector, then why does it not crash on my computer? And why am I able to get the ads? Hold on a second. I didn't Docker build. Docker compose build. Because this one was still communicating with AWS, right? We need a Docker compose build. now we can do docker compose up, and I might like lose connection, but we'll try it. While it's doing its thing, I'm going to come over here and just start reading more. So DB context doesn't have extensions enabled. Entity framework sees vector property, but doesn't know how a vector column is in Postgres, so it generates an empty migration. Okay. The other okay. Here, I actually have other migration files in that folder. Those were from my previous Did I copy and paste those in this context to what the designer thing looked like? I think I did, right? Hold on, this is number 2. Wait, didn't I? Yeah, so I did here. Okay. You must tell Postgres provider to use this extension. Okay. But first, I want to figure out what that does and why I need it and why it wasn't failing. Let me check this. Let me just check this. We just built, and if we see an ad, then we know it's working on our local. Okay, so it's working on our local too. Okay. So if entity framework, okay. We haven't done this yet. So now, summary of the 2 files you see. This is the instruction manual for the database. Instruction manual for the database. It tells Postgres exactly what SQL commands to run. If this is empty, and I can actually close this now because, okay. This is the instruction manual for the database. It tells Postgres won't change. Okay. If it's empty, your database won't change. So this is the thing that actually changes my database. This is what, sorry, this is the thing that Entity Framework will use to change my code. Okay, so I actually have other migrations from my previous changes. Do you think those would have added it? I pasted them in the section question above. Okay. 3 is what is my third question? Who exactly is Entity Framework, and am I running Entity Framework when I am executing my compiled code, or is Entity Framework something that lives outside of my code that I can run commands on? Okay, anyways, this is metadata for its internal use. It helps it keep track of the model state at a specific point in time so it can calculate next migration later. Okay. So regenerate the migration. Now check the new file. You should see alter table annotation here. Okay. Could it be that one of the problems that I'm having right now is with Docker, it's not a new thing every single time you run your test. And so what I'm thinking is, okay, well, wait, hold on. Was my code the same, right? And then I did the Docker build, okay? I made sure that my code wasn't like stored in memory and we were just running the stale image. Now I'm thinking, wait, hold on, Docker has the volumes. Is my volume, which stores the data, maybe that is stale? Okay. That's because you likely ran manual setup on your Postgres and the tables already exist. Okay. Let's look at our startup scripts. Okay. Let's try to piece things together. Here's my startup script. Okay. Targeting rules, ads, vector embedding, create extension if not exist vector. There it is. Okay. So what I'm thinking, okay. I have a startup script which is like this. Let me actually put this as number 4. Okay. I have no idea if what I am about to say is correct or not. I want to ask you your thoughts and correct my understanding if you notice something is wrong in my conceptual understanding. I think what is happening is when I deleted my old volume for the database and instead ran this startup script, it created a database on my local device and but then the migration is also going to be like GitHub actions should also pass because it's going to run the startup script. Okay. Manually set up your local Postgres and the tables already exist. Okay. Is different. It starts a brand new database. It looks up migration folders. Create a database on my local device. Yeah. With the correct extensions. Okay. This is why when I run my code on my local device, when I ask for a vector type, the database knows how to do this. But the other thing that I'm confused about is when I upload this to GitHub, it also starts as a fresh image, so that means that my initialization startup scripts are going to run, and this code is also going to run. And then with migrations, do we delete the old data though, right? So actually the migrations are wrong. Okay. Deleted Docker volume and ran. You manually brute forced the database into the correct shape. The database already has Pgvector extensions and embedding columns because your script created them. The database already has the vector extension and embedding columns because your script created them. Why GitHub fails? The GitHub Actions runner starts afresh. Yeah. It likely never. No, they're not. No. Did previous migrations add it? Based on the other code you pasted, node. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So, the most important part here is the core misunderstanding how GitHub production builds the database. I have that. Okay. What I want to do, those are whatever. I want to come in here, open chat, and we are going to have Copilot fix it for us because I have no idea. I mean, I could randomly add that line of code and see if it works. Maybe we do that. But this, I don't know. Where's my AppDB context? Here we go. So, let's just add that. Random line of code. Okay, that's. So now Docker compose build. Okay, we're gonna build it, and then we're going to run it, see if we still get that ads. Okay. If we still get the ads, I'm going to push it out to GitHub. See if we get the actions pass. If not, we'll go to Copilot. Okay, Docker compose up. Okay, let's refresh it and see if we get anything. Okay. Let me refresh it again. Unreachable. So it looks like that broke it. Okay. Docker compose build, redoing it. There's so much which is like going on. There's trying there this is one of my first times really interacting with a database like this, trying to understand. I've never even heard of migrations until 3 days ago. I hope that I never need to hear about them ever again. Um, then now we're also trying to add vectors to this. And then I got overly ambitious and connect it to AWS. So there's like way too much going on right now. Let me just do Docker compose up. We're going to see that now it works, hopefully. Okay, let's... There we go. Okay. So now this line broke it. So I need to do Docker compose down like that, and then say when I add this line, my oh my goodness, my front end is no longer able to communicate with my bid engine. it away, I get the ads. Okay. If adding this breaks your communication, it means Entity Framework is failing to build when the app starts up. The model validation crash. When your bid engine starts up, Entity Framework performs a handshake with the database without the line, I'm just a standard C# app. It doesn't check for extensions because... Wait, did we ever find out who Entity Framework actually is? It didn't answer it. Oh, okay, here. It lives inside your compiled code. It's an ORM, relational mapper. Object relational mapper. The command line tool. When you run .NET EF, you are using a tool that peeks inside your code to generate migration scripts. Runtime. When you run your app, Entity Framework is the engine that converts your C#. Okay. It's an engine that converts it. Okay. So without that line, starts up and performs a handshake. So bid engine starts up and then EF performs a handshake with my Postgres. Without the line, EF says I'm a standard C# app and doesn't check for extensions because your manual SQL script already created the table. Queries happen to work. With the line, it says I require this extension. If there's a mismatch like version conflicts or missing permission, the DB context fails to initialize. This causes the entire bid engine API to crash. Okay, likely culprit. If your code is running Pgvector in program CS but failing on has Postgres extension in the DB, there's often a conflict between MPG SQL driver, the low, okay, and the high level mapper are talking. Check your AppDB context again. Since you're manually building here in program CS, you need to make sure keep trying it in your okay. Can you write a detailed prompt that I can give to Agentic Copilot to be able to understand and fix this problem that we are dealing with right now? Okay. The master debugger, well, it's already going to get this. Okay, the goal. I need a solution that fixes, ensure the app doesn't crash at runtime. I'm just gonna do it myself. I am attempting to add Pgvector to my database. I have made multiple changes, and as of right now, I am able to get my code to compile and successfully retrieve ads on my front end. But the problem is when I push my code to GitHub, then it fails the unit tests. You have access to my GitHub through MCP. Find out what the issues are and fix them. Another hint is that I have made a lot of changes to the migrations and messing with the database settings. So there might be problems with this. Once you have successfully solved the problem, write a detailed description of what went wrong and what you needed to do to fix it, along with the concepts. Okay. So how many tokens do we have right now? Okay, 56. Proceed to run this project unit test. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. So we got some failures. And the reason I say good is because that means that Copilot will be able to see exactly what's going on. So I'm trying to understand why is there a discrepancy between my machine and GitHub Actions, but then tests are failing. Okay, good. So it's adding a whole bunch here. What is this though? Where are we? AppDB context. Okay. Allow. Okay. Allow. Oof. Even more fails. Oh, hopefully it doesn't do that weird one where it says like, okay, so this one, bedding, okay, base. It's doing the float thing again. At this point, I'm thinking, can I delete my migrations, delete everything, and just have my startup scripts? Like, that's it. I don't want these stupid migrations. I hate these migrations. Wants to run this. Okay, yeah, go ahead, try it. I hate migrations. So if database dot is, okay. Okay. So it changed these two things. Let me come in here, see what it changed. So only within appdb context. Okay. Now, I'm just going to keep, no, I don't want to press keep yet. The reason is because I want to see what has changed. So we take away this and we add the exact same line here, but we do a check to see is in PGSQL. I don't know what that means. But I do recognize it from program.cs where we say like in PL here, use in use, and then this one is, okay? And then data source here, and then use vector right there, right? But shouldn't this always run? So why would that cause a failure? Otherwise, we use this horrific like floating point array nonsense. And I think this is the floating point array nonsense as well, right? Like I literally commented this exact stuff out because I was trying to fix it. I'm gonna press keep. I'm going to do this. And I am going to go to the terminal here and then do git add here, git commit copilot attempted to fix some of the issues I was experiencing where the database would crash when performing unit tests. But I am unsure about its solution because it seems that it is reverting back to the older method of using floating point arrays instead of creating the actual Pgvector which we are desiring and that my database now supports. Origin, and then feature semantic search. Okay, then this should trigger here, and let's see if so it'll run its things. Failed an hour ago. Okay, so we're doing this again. Action. Let me just go to actions here. Okay, let's see if it passes. Possibly when I'm doing my unit tests, I'm not using that thing, whatever it is, that like embedding, right? Because I did my unit tests a long time ago, so they wouldn't have the Pgvector, and then it fails. And by the way, it passed. Okay, so if I wrote my unit tests, an entity framework is There's so much going on. I don't know how this connects to the migrations, though. There's migrations, there's adding the vectors, there's Pgvector, there's the actual database, which I changed. I changed my image, my Docker image, from like Postgres, the like normal Alpine one, to, by the way, both of them passed, to one which was specific to be able to accept Pgvector. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this passed, which means I am able to merge it, right? Like, come in here, and we can do merge. Okay, so I'm going to do this. And now what I am going to say is, actually, do I want to merge it right now? Added an optional connection to AWS, but the default is still the local Docker image. Okay, so this is one thing which I did. Changed the Docker image from the standard Alpine Postgres image to a custom, no, it's not really custom, to a specific Postgres Docker image which explicitly supports Pgvector. Okay. Previously, unit tests were failing, and I believe the reason for this failures to be due to my unit tests not being brought up as having native support for Pgvector. I fixed this by creating optional floating point values for the Pgvector type. Okay. And confirm merge. Okay. So we should have this now. Okay, so now we can come to code and we should see like whatever, like recently 4 minutes ago. Okay, so now I can come here and make sure that I got my little green dots. Okay, there we go. And now what I want to do is I want to copy and paste this into this doesn't, it's like obnoxious because it, okay, there we go. That's actually exactly what I wanted. It doesn't scroll when you do this. Okay, so I'm gonna come here, and then I will paste this into here and say, this is Copilot's response. Copy this and paste this into here. This is the updated AppDB context. The code now passes, and I was able to successfully merge, but I am now turning my attention to understanding the concepts. can you explain what Copilot did, why it passed, and what the problems were? Okay. So, actually, I think what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break, get some more coffee. I need some coffee. I need more coffee, I should say. And then I am going to be back, and then in the next video, we're going to start off right here trying to understand what went wrong. Um, and then, yeah, so then we can continue working on the project. So that's the direction I'm going to be heading. If you want to join me on the journey, subscribe. I'd love to have you around. My name is Timothy Lee Grant, and I'll see you guys very soon.